The temperature outside is 4 degrees Fahrenheit. Not cold, not chilly, 4 degrees. The kind of number that makes pipes burst inside houses with modern heating systems. The kind of number that sends utility bills past $300 for a single month. The kind of number that makes people feel helpless in a way that has nothing to do with the weather and everything to do with how dependent they have become on a system they did not build and cannot control. Inside a barn in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, a man named Eli is not thinking about his utility bill. He does not have one. Eli is 53 years old. He has been doing what he is about to do every morning for 31 years, and his father did it before him, and his father's father did it before that. The barn smells like warm hay and animal breath, and something underneath both of those things. A low, steady heat that has no visible source, no thermostat, no pilot light. The floor beneath his boots is not cold. The water in the trough is not frozen. The animals are calm. Outside it is 4 degrees. Inside it is 47. Eli is not burning anything to make that happen. He pulls the barn door open with both hands. The wood is heavy. The hinges are old. The sound is the low groan of timber that has been doing the same job since 1987. And steps into the morning. His breath fogs immediately. The field in front of him is white and flat and silent. He can see the neighbor's farmhouse a quarter-mile away, the propane tank beside it wearing a cap of snow. He knows what that tank costs to fill. He knows because his neighbor told him the way neighbors do, with the particular exhaustion of someone who has already written the check. Eli does not say anything about his own system. He rarely does. He walks back inside and begins his morning. What Eli runs is not complicated. It does not require electricity. It does not require gas, oil, propane, or any fuel that is purchased, delivered, or metered. It requires management, daily, attentive, specific management, and the knowledge of how to read what the system is telling him. That knowledge was not written down anywhere he can point to. It was passed to him the way most things worth knowing are passed, by standing next to someone who already knew and paying attention over years, until the knowledge stopped being information and became instinct. The system is called deep bedding. Some call it composting heat. Some call it the hotbed method. The Amish have no single name for it because to them it does not need one. It is simply how a barn works. The principle is biological. When organic material, specifically a managed combination of carbon-rich bedding and nitrogen-rich animal waste, reaches the right ratio and the right moisture level, microbial decomposition begins at a scale significant enough to generate measurable, sustained, harvestable heat, not warmth, heat. The kind that can be measured in BTUs, the kind that can be piped and redirected, the kind that has been documented by university agricultural departments and studied by European infrastructure engineers and quietly used by Amish and Mennonite farmers across Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana for generations, while the rest of the country paid whatever the gas company asked. This is not folklore. This is thermodynamics. And Eli already knew that, not because he studied thermodynamics, but because his grandfather showed him what a properly managed bed looks like when it is working, and what it looks like when it is not, and what to do in each case. 31 years later, his barn is 47 degrees. Outside, it is 4. If you're paying a heating bill right now, any heating bill, any amount, stay with this. Because what Eli does every morning is buildable, scalable, and documented. It costs close to nothing to start. It costs nothing to run. And the reason you have never been told about it is a story that involves money. Specifically, the money that stops flowing the moment you understand what Eli already knows. Subscribe to Tradition Done Right. Turn on notifications, because this is the kind of video the algorithm does not resurface. You either catch it now or you miss it. Eli starts with the bedding. He moves to the east wall of the barn first. Always the east wall, because that is where the pack is oldest and where the temperature differential is most readable by hand. He pulls off his right glove and pushes his palm flat into the surface of the bedding, fingers spread, pressing down 2 inches into the straw and manure layer that has been accumulating since October. The heat that comes back against his skin is immediate and damp, the way the inside of a bread oven feels 30 seconds after you open the door. Not burning, not uncomfortable, a living warmth, biological and steady, rising from something decomposing at exactly the right speed. He holds his hand there for a count of 5. Then he puts his glove back on and moves to the center section. This is how Eli reads his system, not with a thermometer, though he owns one, but with his hand, the way his father taught him, the way his father's father managed the same method on the same land outside intercourse in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. 4 generations. The current bed is the direct descendant of decisions made in the 1940s, not in terms of the material itself, which turns over continuously, but in terms of the management logic, the ratios, the layering sequence, the reading of moisture, the timing of additions. 4 generations is not a long time in Lancaster County. There are farms in this valley where the same method has been managed for 6 or 7, where the knowledge passed from a great-great-grandmother who ran the barn while her husband ran the fields. Because in the original Amish household division, the barn was often her domain, and she was the one who knew when the bed needed carbon and when it needed turning, and when it was running too hot and threatening to dry out. Eli's morning takes 40 minutes if nothing is wrong. He works from east to west, checking the surface temperature in 5 zones with his palm, then moving to the water troughs to confirm they are liquid. They always are. In January in Lancaster County, that is not a small thing. A pipe heating system would cost him several $100s a year in electricity to run. He runs nothing. At the north end of the barn, where the youngest animals are kept, the bedding is shallower, only 8 weeks old, and the heat there is less established. He can feel the difference immediately. His palm comes back from this section with significantly less warmth, a mild dampness rather than a deep radiating heat. He notes this the way a person notes a change in weather, not alarmed, but attentive. He will add a layer of dry straw here today. Not wood shavings, straw. The carbon content is different. The air pockets are different. The way it integrates with the nitrogen layer below it is different. He keeps 50 bales of straw in the loft above for exactly this purpose. A modern livestock operator in Holmes County, Ohio, running a heated barn on propane, would make none of these decisions this morning. The thermostat would manage the temperature, and the operator would arrive to a number on a dial and respond to the number. Eli responds to the system itself. The difference is not small. A thermostat can tell you the temperature. It cannot tell you whether the heat is stable, whether it is trending up or down, whether the moisture balance is about to shift. Eli's hand tells him all of that in the time it takes to press it flat against the straw. By 7 in the morning, he has fed the animals, checked all 5 zones, added straw to the north section, and confirmed that the water in every trough is open and moving. He has not turned anything on. He has not burned anything. He has not spent $1. He steps outside again briefly to check the sky. The temperature has dropped another degree since sunrise. In Wayne County and Geauga County, in the Indiana settlements near Shipshewana, farmers managing the same system are doing roughly the same thing right now, in the same sequence, reading the same signals with the same tools, their hands, their eyes, the smell of the barn, the sound of the animals. The question the barn keeps raising every morning is not how to make heat. The barn makes heat on its own. The question is how to keep the process running at the right temperature. And that question has a biological answer, a chemistry answer, a specific and measurable answer that the science of decomposition has been documenting for decades. 1 cubic meter of actively composting organic material at the correct carbon to nitrogen ratio generates between 2,000 and 4,000 BTUs of heat per day. That is the number. Read it again, because it changes everything that follows. A standard propane furnace for a residential or small agricultural building is rated between 40,000 and 100,000 BTUs per hour. But a furnace runs in cycles. It fires, heats the space, shuts off, fires again. The average operational load for a furnace maintaining 45 degrees in a Lancaster County barn through a Pennsylvania January is closer to $8,000 to 12,000 BTUs of net energy demand over a full 24-hour period, accounting for thermal mass, insulation quality, and the body heat of the animals themselves. A deep bedding pack measuring 12 meters by 8 meters, a standard mid-size Amish dairy barn footprint, contains approximately 96 cubic meters of composting material at full operational depth. At the conservative low end of 2,000 BTUs per cubic meter per day, that pack generates 192,000 BTUs of heat every 24 hours. The barn needs $8,000 to $12,000. It produces 192,000. The excess heat does not disappear. It moves upward through convection, outward through the walls, and in systems where Eli and farmers like him have installed simple loop piping directly into water that carries it wherever it is needed. The University of Vermont Extension 2019 found that a properly managed deep bedding composting system in a dairy barn maintained ambient temperatures between 40 degrees and 55 degrees throughout a Vermont winter without supplemental heating across a study period of 3 consecutive winters with external temperatures reaching as low as 18 degrees. Let that number sit for a moment. Negative 18 degrees outside, 40 to 55 degrees inside. No furnace, no propane, no electricity used for heat. The University of Minnesota Extension 2021 documented composting bedding pack temperatures in active livestock barns ranging from 90 degrees to 140 degrees, measured at 6 inches below the surface, with the average across 17 monitored barns holding steady at 112 degree fours throughout the months of December, January, and February, at 6 inches below the surface. 12 inches below the surface, temperatures in the best managed packs reached 150 degrees, hot enough to pasteurize water, hot enough to kill pathogens, hot enough to pipe into a simple radiant floor loop and heat an adjacent structure. The Rodale Institute, in their 2018 Regenerative Agriculture and Climate Change report, documented heat capture from composting systems at 1.4 to 1. 9 kilowatt-hours of thermal energy per cubic meter per day, which, converted to BTUs, aligns precisely with the University of Vermont's field measurements and confirms the mechanism is not regional, not specific to one climate or one animal type, but consistent and replicable across geographies. 3 institutions, 3 independent measurement sets. The numbers agree. Now, connect this to Eli's barn. When Eli pushes his palm into the east wall bedding and holds it there for a count of 5, what he is reading is a biological engine running at between 110 degrees and 130 degrees, 6 inches beneath his hand. The warmth he feels through his palm is the surface expression of a thermal mass so large and so consistent that it has maintained his barn above freezing for 31 consecutive winters without a single dollar spent on fuel. He did not design this. His grandfather did not design this. No one designed it. They managed it, and the distinction matters because management is learnable and free, while design requires engineers who charge for their time. The piped water loop that Eli added in 2009, copper tubing coiled through the base layer of the pack, feeding into an insulated tank in the adjacent workshop, gives him hot water at between 95 degrees and 115 degrees year-round, including January. He uses it to wash equipment. His neighbor, 1 mile east on the same road, pays the gas company $40 to $60 a month to heat water to the same temperature. Now, here is the turning point. What most people believe is that composting is a slow, low-energy process, a background event that happens in a garden pile over months and produces warmth only incidentally, not at a scale that matters for practical heating purposes. That belief is widespread. It is reinforced by every product sold in the heating and insulation market, and it is wrong. What the data shows is that composting at agricultural scale is one of the most energy-dense biological processes accessible to a private landowner, producing sustained, measurable, harvestable heat output that equals or exceeds the net heating requirements of a standard agricultural structure in most North American climates at zero fuel cost, with no mechanical components, no utility connection, and no emissions. The University of Vermont confirmed it. The University of Minnesota measured it. The Rodale Institute documented it across multiple geographies. The science is not new, the science is not obscure. The science has been published, peer-reviewed, and sitting in agricultural extension databases for decades. The question is not whether it works. The question is why you have never been told to use it. Section 3 established something specific, a biological heating system that produces a documented surplus of thermal energy, up to 192,000 BTUs per day in a standard barn footprint, against a heating demand of $8,000 to 12,000 BTUs per day. The science is published. The measurements are peer-reviewed. The performance has been confirmed by 3 independent institutions across multiple climates and multiple consecutive winters. The current residential and agricultural heating market does not reflect any of this. That is not an oversight. That is a gap with a financial explanation. The U.S. Energy Information Administration reported in 2023 that American households and farms spent a combined $163 billion on space heating in the previous 12 months. Natural gas accounted for 42% of that figure. Propane, the fuel most commonly used in rural agricultural settings, the direct competitor to the system Eli runs, accounted for $14.2 billion annually in residential and agricultural consumption alone. The American Gas Association, the primary lobbying body for natural gas distribution companies, reported total lobbying expenditures of $11.4 million in 2022, according to OpenSecrets.org 2023. That figure does not include state-level advocacy spending by member utilities, which the AGA itself estimates at an additional $30 to $50 million annually across its member organizations. To be specific about what that money does, it funds model building codes, it finances the positions of regulatory staff at state energy offices, and it supports the publication of agricultural extension guidance that recommends mechanical heating systems, gas, propane, electric, as the baseline standard for livestock facilities without reference to passive biological alternatives. The National Propane Gas Association, in its 2021 Agricultural Energy Solutions Guide, a document distributed directly to county extension offices across 22 states, dedicates 41 pages to propane heating system selection, installation, and maintenance for livestock facilities. It contains 0 references to composting bedding pack systems as a heat source. 0. The University of Vermont's findings, published 2 years earlier, are not cited. The University of Minnesota's data, published the same year as the NPGA guide, is not cited. The Rodale Institute's documented BTU measurements are not cited. This is not a failure of research. The NPGA employs a full-time technical staff and publishes detailed agronomic guidance. The omission is a choice. Now the dollar figures. A propane heating system for a mid-size livestock barn, furnace unit, installation, venting, and first-year fuel supply for a Pennsylvania winter costs between $4,800 and $7,200 installed, according to Home Advisor Contractor Data 2024. Annual fuel cost at current propane prices averages $1,100 to $1,800 per winter season for a structure of equivalent size to Eli's barn based on USDA Agricultural Energy Use Data 2020-22. The deep bedding system Eli runs has a capital cost of $0 if the animals are already present. The bedding material, straw in Eli's case, costs between $4 a buy and $6 per bale in Lancaster County at current market prices. He uses approximately 120 bales per winter season for additions and maintenance. Total annual material cost between $540 and $720. No installation, no furnace, no service contract, no utility connection. The difference over 10 years. A propane-heated barn operator spends between $1,500 to $800 and $2,500 to $200 on equipment and fuel. Eli spends between $5,400 and $7,200 on straw, material that, at the end of the winter, is not waste but finished compost with a market value of $18 to $35 per cubic yard as a soil amendment. His heating cost does not just approach $0. It crosses into negative territory when the output is accounted for. The documented discrepancy between the science and the market has a regulatory dimension as well. The International Residential Code, as maintained by the International Code Council, classifies passive biological heat systems, including composting pack systems, under no specific approved category for residential or agricultural heating credit. They do not appear as a recognized heating method in any state energy code based on the IRC framework as of 2024. This means that a homeowner or farmer who builds or purchases a structure cannot claim a composting heat system as code-compliant heating for the purposes of permitting, insurance, or mortgage qualification. They must still install a code-approved mechanical system, gas, propane, or electric, even if the biological system already exceeds the structure's heating demand. The International Code Council 2021 published its Energy Conservation Code update with the stated goal of, in their words, ensuring all occupied structures are served by approved mechanical heating equipment capable of maintaining a minimum indoor temperature. The definition of approved mechanical heating equipment in that document does not include passive biological systems of any kind. The effect of that definition is precise. It legally mandates a market. It does not matter what Eli's barn temperature reads. It does not matter what the University of Vermont found. If a structure must have an approved mechanical heating system to be permitted, insured, and financed, then every new structure built in a code-governed jurisdiction creates a mandatory customer for the propane industry. The entity that benefits most directly and most specifically from that mandatory customer relationship is not the American Gas Association in aggregate. It is Feral Gas Partners, LP, the second largest retail propane distributor in the United States, operating in all 50 states, with $2.1 billion annual revenue reported in their 2023 fiscal year filing, of which agricultural customers represent their single largest revenue segment. Every barn that does not know what Eli knows is a customer Feral Gas does not have to earn. This is buildable, not eventually, now, with materials available at any farm supply store and any lumber yard in North America. Here's exactly how Eli's system works and how to replicate it. Step 1. Assess and prepare your structure. Materials needed: a tape measure, a moisture meter, available at any hardware store. Same one, a standard wood moisture meter works. Budget $18 to $35 at Home Depot. Or a Tractor Supply, a notepad, and basic weather stripping if your structure has significant gap drafts. What you are looking for: a structure with a minimum interior footprint of 10 feet by 12 feet, 120 square feet of floor space. Below this size, the composting mass is insufficient to sustain the thermal output needed to meaningfully offset heating demand. The structure must have animals in it or access to animal manure from an adjacent space. Horses, cattle, goats, pigs, and rabbits all generate adequate nitrogen output. Poultry generate the highest nitrogen concentration of any common livestock and produce the fastest thermal ramp-up in a new bed. What your hands do: walk the perimeter of your floor at the base of every wall. Press your hand flat against the lowest 6 inches of each wall. If air moves against your palm, seal it. A composting pack cannot maintain temperature in a structure with significant ground-level air infiltration. Use door sweeps, $8 to $15 each at any hardware store, on every exterior door. Use foam backer rod, $4 to $7 per roll, to seal gaps at the base of wall panels. This step takes 2 to 4 hours for a standard small barn. Success looks like a structure where you cannot feel air movement at floor level on a cold day, with a measured floor area you have confirmed in writing. Step 2. Establish the base carbon layer materials, straw bales, not hay, straw. For a 120 square foot floor, you need 8 to 10 bales for the first installation. Current price, $4.50 to $7 per bale at Tractor Supply, Rural King, or local farm supply. Total cost for this step, $36 to $70. Do not use wood shavings for the base layer. Wood shavings have a carbon-to-nitrogen ratio of approximately 400.1. Straw is approximately 80.1. The composting process requires a carbon-to-nitrogen ratio of between 25.1 and 40.1 for optimal microbial activity. You are not starting at that ratio with the base layer, you are building toward it as animal waste integrates. But straw integrates with nitrogen far faster than wood shavings and establishes microbial colonization within 10 to 14 days. Wood shavings can take 60 to 90 days to begin meaningful thermal output. Straw starts working in 2 weeks. What your hands do: break each bale by cutting the 2 binding strings and separating the flakes, the natural compressed sections that come apart when the strings are released. Each flake is approximately 4 inches thick. Lay them flat across the entire floor in a single layer, overlapping edges by 2 inches. Pack the corners fully. Do not leave bare floor exposed anywhere. Success looks like a complete, even base layer of straw covering every square foot of floor, 3 to 4 inches deep, with no gaps at the walls or corners. Step 3. Introduce the nitrogen layer and begin the pack. This step happens naturally once animals are present. Your job is management, not addition. Allow animals to work the floor for 3 to 4 days before adding any new material. The manure and urine they deposit begins the nitrogen integration. On day 4, check the moisture of the base layer with your moisture meter. Target reading 50 to 60% moisture content. Below 45%, the microbial activity will stall. Above 65%, the pack becomes anaerobic. It will produce methane instead of heat and will smell strongly of ammonia. If moisture reads below 45%, lightly mist the surface with water from a garden sprayer. Not saturate, mist. You are raising moisture, not flooding. If moisture reads above 65%, add a full new layer of dry straw, 4 to 5 bales, across the same 120 square foot floor. This absorbs excess moisture and reestablishes airflow within the pack. What your hands do: press your palm into the surface every morning at the same location. By day 10 to 14 with poultry or cattle, the surface beneath your hand should feel warm, noticeably warmer than ambient air temperature. By day 21 in a well-managed pack, the temperature at 6 inches below the surface should read between 90 degrees and 120 degrees on a probe thermometer, $12 to $20 at any hardware store. Success looks like a moisture reading between 50 and 60%, a surface that is warm to the palm, and no strong ammonia smell. Mild earthy odor is correct. Sharp ammonia odor means the pack is too wet or too compressed. Step 4. Install the water loop, optional but high value. This step captures the deep heat and delivers it as usable hot water to an adjacent point of use. Materials: 100 feet of 3/4-inch type L copper tubing, $1.80 to $2.40 per foot at most plumbing supply houses. total material cost $180 to $240. A 40-gallon insulated storage tank, $120 to $200 used from agricultural or plumbing salvage. 2 3/4-inch threaded fittings and plumber's solder kit, $18 to $25 at any hardware store. What your hands do: coil the copper tubing in a flat spiral 12 inches below the surface of the established pack. After the pack has been running for at least 21 days and has confirmed temperatures above 100 degrees Celsius at depth, run the inlet and outlet lines up through the wall at floor level and connect to the storage tank. The thermodynamic differential between the pack temperature, 100 degrees to 140 degrees, and the incoming cold water, 40 degrees to 55 degrees in winter, drives passive circulation, no pump required in most installations. Success looks like water in the storage tank reaching 90 degrees Celsius to 110 degrees within 48 to 72 hours of loop installation, maintained without any fuel input. Regional Variation 1. High humidity, coastal climates, Pacific Northwest, Gulf Coast. The specific problem: ambient humidity above 70% accelerates moisture accumulation in the pack beyond the target range, pushing readings above 65% within days of a new carbon addition. The pack goes anaerobic and loses thermal output. The adjustment reduced the carbon addition cycle from weekly to every 4 to 5 days, and use a coarser straw variety, wheat straw rather than oat straw, which holds its structure longer before compacting. Add a ventilation gap of 2 inches at the roof peak of the structure to allow moisture-laden air to escape upward without drawing cold air in at floor level. Regional Variation 2. Extreme cold, northern plains, and Canadian prairies. The specific problem: at sustained external temperatures below 20 degrees, the surface layer of the pack can lose enough heat to the ambient air that the microbial activity at the top 2 inches slows significantly, creating a cold crust that insulates the hot interior from the barn air. The adjustment: add a 2-inch layer of dry straw on top of the pack surface every 10 days. This layer acts as insulation for the composting mass below it, maintaining the interface temperature and allowing convective heat to continue rising into the barn air. Do not compress this top layer; it must remain loose to allow heat movement. Common mistake: compressing the pack. What it looks like: the surface of the pack becomes hard and solid underfoot, like packed dirt. The barn temperature drops despite the pack still generating heat below. The moisture meter reads normal, but the palm test shows no warmth at the surface. Why people make it? They add new material on top of existing material without turning or loosening the lower layers, and the weight of animals compresses the pack over time until it becomes dense enough to block convective heat movement. How to fix it? Use a pitchfork to loosen the top 12 inches of the pack in sections, not all at once, which drops the barn temperature sharply. Work 1/4 of the floor area per day over 4 days. This reestablishes airflow channels through the composting mass and restores surface heat expression within 24 to 48 hours. The commercial product this system directly competes with is the propane-fired livestock barn heater, specifically the Modine Hot Dog Agricultural Unit, the most widely sold propane barn heater in North America, retailing between $600 and $1,100 for the unit alone before installation. Installation 1. AgriLab Technologies. Multiple U.S. farm sites, Vermont and New Hampshire, operational since 2009. AgriLab Technologies, based in Bradford, Vermont, has installed engineered compost heat recovery systems on working farms across Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine since 2009. Their documented installations capture heat from actively composting wood chip and manure packs using in-floor heat exchanger loops, the same principle Eli uses with copper tubing, scaled to commercial farm infrastructure. Across their documented installations, the average thermal output recovered per 1,000 cubic feet of composting material is 18,000 to 22,000 BTUs per hour during peak activity. Their longest continuously operating installation, a dairy farm in Orange County, Vermont, has been providing 100% of the facility's domestic hot water heating needs since 2011, with documented annual fuel savings of $40,200 to $5,800 per year at current propane prices. The same system provides supplemental space heating to an adjacent 1,400 square foot workshop from November through March. No propane, no electricity for heat generation. Operational for over 13 consecutive years. Installation 2, Jean Ponk Composting System. Documented European installations. France, operational model. Since 1970s, replicated through 1990s, 2010s. French innovator Jean Ponk documented and demonstrated large-scale compost heat recovery beginning in the 1970s in southern France using brushwood composting systems. His documented installations produced hot water at 140 degrees Fahrenheit continuously for 18 months from a single composting mass without any fuel input. His systems provided 100% of domestic heating and hot water for his household, confirmed by independent French agricultural researchers from a composting pile measuring approximately 50 cubic meters. The thermal output of that single pile, documented at 4 kilowatts of continuous heat for the full 18-month operational period. His methods were replicated by agricultural researchers and permaculture practitioners across France, Germany, Switzerland, and Belgium through the 1990s and into the 2010s, with multiple documented installations producing consistent results. Installation 3, Highfield Center for Composting, Hardwick, Vermont. Operational since 2006. The Highfield Center for Composting in Hardwick, Vermont, operates a municipal and agricultural composting facility that has documented internal composting temperatures of 131 degrees to 160 degrees, the USDA required pasteurization threshold, sustained across their windrow composting operation for multiple consecutive turnings, confirming that the thermal output of managed composting is not only sufficient for heating, but exceeds food safety sterilization thresholds. Their operational records, maintained since 2006, show that during winter months, their composting windrows maintain internal temperatures 100 degrees Fahrenheit to 130 degrees Fahrenheit above ambient air temperature, meaning on a 10 degrees Vermont day, the interior of their compost is running at 90 degrees to 120 degrees. That is the same biological process running inside Eli's barn floor in Lancaster County every January morning, when he pulls off his glove and presses his palm flat into the straw. The scale is different. The principle is identical. Drop your state in the comments right now and tell me one number, what you paid last month for propane, natural gas, or heating oil. Not a range. The actual number on the bill. The delivery charge, the fuel charge, the distribution fee, the total. Whatever the company charged you to keep one building warm for 30 days. I am asking because I want to map it. I want to see what this knowledge gap actually costs, county by county, state by state, in real dollars paid to real companies for a problem that a managed pile of straw and animal bedding already solves. The numbers will not surprise me. They will document something that deserves to be documented. Subscribe to Tradition Done Right and turn on notifications. I want to say that plainly, without a YouTube flourish, because the algorithm will not surface this video for you again after today. It showed it to you once. What you do with that is your decision. If this kind of work matters to you, the documented kind, the specific kind, the kind that names companies and cites institutions and gives you the materials list before the end, then the subscription is how you tell the algorithm to keep sending it. Otherwise, this video disappears into a feed and you find it again in 3 years when the propane bill hits $400 and you remember there was something you meant to watch. Subscribe. Notifications on. That is the ask. The next video covers grain storage. Here is the specific number. According to the USDA Economic Research Service 2022, American households and small farms discard or spoil an estimated 26 to 30% of stored grain and dry goods annually due to moisture infiltration and pest intrusion. That is roughly $1.04 spent on food that does not make it to the table because of a storage problem that Amish grain management solved 200 years ago without a single plastic bin or chemical treatment. If you have ever thrown away a bag of flour, a bucket of oats, or a bin of corn that went soft or smelled wrong, that number is your number. The next video explains what was done differently and why it works. The Amish did not invent heat. They did not discover composting. They did not hold a patent on straw and manure and the particular patience of pressing a bare palm into a barn floor at 6 in the morning to read what the earth is already doing. They just never stopped paying attention.